start the live. So we're now going live and waiting for people to start attending. And of course, at the top of the hour, I'll bring up the screen and we'll also start the multicast.
Perfect. And Howard and Sumit, since you both have experience with Gradar and working with Philipp, what I plan to do is start with some general questions. And then I highly recommend the two of you share your brilliance.
I'm sure Phil has enough brilliance to cover for all of us. Right, Phil?
Well, you know, I'm in the post-COVID stage, so I'm not sure how much is left, really. So.
Oh, you're funny. Well, I know that's not a funny topic, but I'm glad you're healthy. And
yeah,
you have a baby.
I actually caught it the first time just about 4 weeks ago. So I managed for 3.5 years not catching it, but then, jackpot.
I hope it was a mild version.
I hope you're better now.
Yeah. So the good thing, what I had done was a bit earlier, I had booked a holiday in Greece. So the day I tested negative for the first time after like 10 days, I hopped on a plane, flew to Athens, and spent 10 days in Greece. All nice. By myself, no family, no children. It was perfect.
We won't tell your family you said that.
Oh, it's being recorded, right? Oh,
oh no. This part I don't think will be shared.
But in case we need to, we can always hold it against you, Philipp.
Excellent. Yeah. Though I think my children are not exactly interested in, our topics. They would probably prefer, I don't know, Paw Patrol or something like that.
You know what? That's so funny. My daughter, it's like, bless her heart. She doesn't, I think she's now realizing what's happening in companies because she's finally in the workforce. But she's like, this is what mom was talking about all these years.
Yeah. I actually, so my oldest daughter, she's 11 years old now, and they have were introduced to percentages in school. So now realizing 1 equals 100%, and what is 0.25 in percent. This is her challenge at the moment. So I try to make it a bit more clearer today by using Excel. Not a good idea. It just confuses her a lot. So.
Yeah, those are the other things that I didn't really like was using Excel.
I think that's where Howard comes in.
Yes.
It's his favorite tool.
Yeah.
As you can see, Philipp, our diversity here is funny because we all have different talents.
Yeah, I'm with Howard on this one.
It's cool.
Excel has its place, but not for how a lot of companies use it.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And this time I'm going to share with my 24,000 LinkedIn connections more. I think I'm going to do that today more. So, and a lot of my people on my LinkedIn are HR people, CEOs, companies. I need to do a better job of promoting our people strategy forums, and I'm going to do that.
So you're like an HR influencer?
Yes.
Cool.
Well,
she's like the Kardashian of HR.
They call me Shar from HR, but I'm also a disruptor in HR. So Sam sometimes cringes because sometimes I say things like that might seem a little off for an HR person to say, but I'm a disruptor.
Okay.
Because I feel that there needs to be change. I feel many companies really need to revise their job descriptions and their pay practices. And I feel many companies, because of all the companies I work with, have a tendency to kind of put that on the back burner. Am I correct, or what do you think?
It's probably there's probably some truth to it, because doing their homework is not exactly a strength of many HR departments.
Yes, I
But
agree.
once you do it, you are in a position to actually tackle the more complex stuff.
Correct. Well,
And
I'm looking forward to maybe throwing some of that in as far as why it's so a sense of urgency today to hire CompTeam and Gradar. And
so we are also disruptors, because we said, okay, let's build a software that anyone can use. So we have a very disruptive business model. It's software as a service, whilst everyone else, so all the big names, they would only grant access to their software if you hire them for a $100,000 project, at least, 2 to 3 days. And we say, hey, there's a software, just use the software. And maybe you don't even need the support of a consultant. The reality is, due to time constraints and lack of skills or people, many of our clients, they would use a consultant and work with them. So the other thing that James, my colleague in the UK, coined is, Phil, he's a former poacher turned gamekeeper nowadays. So that's not only disruptor, but some other colorful language is also available.
awesome. Well, hey, we are at the top of the hour, so welcome everyone. We are so excited to have you today, and I think you're going to find our topic today very intriguing, particularly if you're a business owner or an HR leader or a financial leader, as well as if you're an employee. I think it's very fascinating what's happening. So our topic today is job descriptions, competencies, and technical skills. And I'm also happy to say that we're going to be talking about how generative AI is transforming the gradar solution. And those of you that have watched the People Strategy Forums, we have been talking about AI like crazy, because our world is changing from a global perspective. So let's get everything started. So we are a People Strategy Forum. We've been doing these people strategies for many years. So on the next slide, we'll talk about what we are about. I started with Sam back right before the COVID hit, and we started doing HR forums, and then it became the People Strategy Forums. So I'm so excited to say that we are all about engaging, energizing, and elevating your employees and your company. And I have to say, it's very cool. This is one of a great resource. So we highly recommend that you share this. And we also highly recommend that if you do know of a company that is looking for the most progressive, most innovative people strategies, this is the place to come. And you would just go to compteam.net. So let's go ahead and talk about our hosts today. So joining us today, we have Sumit Singla. Hi, Sumit. And Sumit is and Sumit is from India. And also, I understand you have had a lot of work working in Gradar, as well as doing a people strategy work, as well as you've what's the big company where it was Deloitte, right, Sumit?
That's correct.
And Deloitte, believe me, that is on top. So at any rate, Sumit has been working with us, and also I'm happy he's helping us with our technology today. And also I'd like to introduce Howard. And Howard is near the New York area, right, Howard?
That's right. That's correct.
All right. And we were just talking this morning that Howard is an expert in Excel, and he knows his numbers. So he's a compensation and he's a compensation guru. And oh my gosh, if you need some expertise, Sumit and Howard together, man, that is a powerful team. And my name is Char Miller, and they call me Char from HR, and I'm a people strategist. And every time Sam hosts this, he calls me the serial entrepreneur. And that is true. I left corporate in 2016. I do HR consulting and HR contracting, as well as talent management strategies. And recently we are into investments in real estate, and particularly focused on helping people that are struggling, like with taxes and also the elderly. So I do need to update my bio, but that's one of my most recent ventures. And then also on the screen here is Mr. Sam Reeve, and he's traveling today and across Europe, I understand. And he is fantastic. He's the CEO of CompTeam, and he has built quite an amazing group, a combination of compensation and talent management strategy. And I think that is a perfect combination. So that is your host today. So moving to our guest expert speaker today. So I'd like to introduce Philipp. And Philipp, it's pronounced Schuch. How do you pronounce your last name?
Well, I tried a computer voice program once, and it said Scotch, but that didn't sound right. So I'd go with Schuch.
Schuch. So I should have talked to you about that before.
Yeah.
So this is Philipp Schuch, and he is the founder and CEO of Gradar. And boy, I have to tell you, this is an amazing company. I understand this company is expert in AI, as well as helping with job descriptions, as well as assisting companies with many aspects of job evaluation. And so I will not go into the detail, because I would like Philipp to actually describe what is Gradar, and also what is your role, and how does your company help organizations improve their compensations and job descriptions. And so Philipp, could you go ahead and describe that?
Well, with pleasure. So yeah, my name is Philipp. I'm based in a city called Düsseldorf. That's in the western part of Germany. I'm quarter Dutch, so because we live very close to the Dutch border. And I started Gradar 9 years ago. And the goal of Gradar was to build a cloud-based solution that anybody can use when it comes to job evaluation, compensation analysis, compensation structuring, and all the things that go in line with job architecture, design, and management. And when I say anyone can use, I mean independent consultants, as well as companies that don't really need the support of consultants because they have a large team of compensation professionals, for example. So when I look at our clients today, it's a great mix of very different companies, very different organizations all across the globe. So we started this with a very international DNA. I mean, when you start something out of Europe, you've got to be international if you don't want to focus on just one market, because there are, I don't know, 30 languages all across Europe. So you have to be international from the beginning. And well, Gradar nowadays it's a cloud-based software, and it covers end-to-end job architecture, development, and management. So you can bring all of the job-related information under one roof and connect to your HRIS to synchronize employee data, to feedback, be it competencies, job descriptions, or whatever you need in your HRIS.
Well, that is excellent. I'm very impressed. And I'm impressed you're the CEO of Gradar. So it's an honor to have you as our expert contributor today. And it's also exciting that we have Howard and Sumit on, because they have expertise as well. So in this topic, and have also, I understand, have partnered with you, correct? So before we get started, I also just want to say we highly encourage our participants to utilize the chat, which you're going to notice down here. And we are going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions or need clarifications, you can also use the Q&A or chat, whatever you'd like to do. My team here is going to help with responding and answering your questions. And if for any reason we're unable to get to your question today, or it's more complex, then we will get you with the right contact and get back with you. There you go. There's Sam saying, hello, everyone. Virtual Sam. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our introduction and get going with our discussion today. So Philip, you've been working with CompTeam for a while, is my understanding. How is that partnership between CompTeam and your work?
Well, we don't really see each other a lot, but Sam actually visited me just a couple of weeks ago, and I put some sausages on the barbecue, so I had a very German welcome for him. So that was pretty fun. The partnership started, I think, about 5 or 6 years ago, and Sam was our first implementation partner for gradar in the United States, and has delivered dozens of projects since in a variety of organizations, both NGOs as well as for-profit organizations, municipalities, pharmaceutical organizations. So he and the team, they helped a very diverse group of organizations with introducing job evaluation and other aspects of the job architecture.
That's fantastic. So if we were to go to compteam.net, I assume you probably have similar companies that you guys have partnered with. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
and
this
go ahead.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I'm not going to build yet another consultancy, because our focus is on the HR technology, and we want to help as many consultants as many organizations out there as possible. So we grow through our network of partners, just like Sam, Howard, Sumit, and all of the others.
That is excellent. So as your bio indicated, and our topic is for today, we'll be talking about job descriptions. We'll be talking about AR integration into those items, and the fact that technology today is making all of those task-oriented HR challenges more efficient. And one of the things that I always say is that job descriptions really need to be analyzed, at least on an annual basis. And unfortunately, many companies have job descriptions that are decades old. And it's too bad, because jobs are changing and technology is changing very, very quickly. Is that your opinion, Philip?
Well, I can see some cultural differences there.
Oh, okay.
I'm not quite sure to align my observations with any special culture, but I can see that there are some job descriptions that will be very long and very task-oriented. So in those, or on those 10 to 12 pages, you might find every single task that someone is supposed to deliver. And that's obviously very cumbersome and very hard to maintain. So what we've seen in other organizations is that they have a very short job description with a focus on the core duties and the processes that someone is responsible for. And this task orientation then goes into the actual process description, so that you don't have to discuss a new job description every time a single aspect in the process changes. And I mean, Charlie, you mentioned something like 4,000 job descriptions for a group of 13,000 employees. That's too much. Yeah. So there's a lot of room really to consolidate the number of job descriptions once you start introducing a more, let's say, process-based approach. And other organizations, the reality is they don't have anything.
I totally agree. Howard, what do you think?
No, it's interesting, because when I first started out, I was in an organization which I won't name, and my job was to actually sit down with incumbents in their role and interview them and write job descriptions. And I will tell you, by the time, and it was a 2 to 3 page job description, but it was so time consuming. The time you finished a department, it was almost like you had to start all over again, because things have changed. So, the approach that you're talking about, Philip, with a short core description sounds much more flexible and adaptive to what companies need today.
Absolutely. And so when we started designing the gradar system and the gradar algorithm for job evaluation, we figured, hey, let's incorporate a compensable factor like processes. or responsibility for processes. Because in every modern organization, processes play a very big role. Most organizations, especially those with knowledge workers, they are process driven.
Mhm.
So why not take this into consideration too? And so we did. And that's where we come from. We say, hey, have this short description, have proper process management in place, and then you're golden. So you can actually, combine the best of both worlds.
That's fantastic. Well, I have to tell you, go ahead, Howard. I think
No,
you're
I was
gonna
going to
say
say, for people that aren't familiar with gradar, it still seems like a fairly laborious process. So what does gradar do? Or how can you describe to people how, the functionality of gradar that simplifies the process?
Okay, so it's only been a year that those large language models are available, or have been available. And you can pretty easily enter a prompt like, write me a job description for a compensation and benefits manager into ChatGPT. And the system will produce something that will actually make a lot of sense. But the reality is, when you look into an organization, there are career paths. So it starts at a junior analyst, and then you have the analyst and the senior analyst, a manager and a senior manager, maybe an expert, a senior expert. So that kind of depends on the job titling structure in an organization. So what we do with gradar is, we do job evaluation. So we will know about those 5 steps in the career ladder. And we can then take this information from our job evaluation exercise in combination with something that we call a global job family to characterize the job. And we'll send this through an API to, we are experimenting with different LLMs, but we'll send it there and we'll get back a job description that is really aligned with the requirements of the job as defined by the job evaluation exercise. And that's what's really new. And that's what makes it very unique.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I want to make a comment here. At least here in my experience in the United States, I've actually had to do hundreds of orientations, because particularly in healthcare and other companies I've worked with, there's a major labor shortage, and it's even worse today, as we know. It was interesting when I did the orientation, which is not the funnest thing to do every week. But at one point, I had over 100 employees sitting in the orientation group. And I stopped and asked the employees, how many of you have actually looked at your job description? And do you realize maybe 2 people in the room raised their hand? Now, I find it fascinating that we hired many hundreds of people, but the manager and the hiring leaders never shared the job description. And that's unfortunate, because the number one thing about talent management strategy is you need to know what job you're being hired for, one. And then secondly, from a performance management standpoint, how do you perform well if you don't know your job? I mean, what do you think, Philip?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always very much intrigued by organizations that will introduce a performance management process, but don't have job descriptions in place. Because clearly, this is the core of what is expected from the employee, be it a short one or a very detailed one. That doesn't matter at this moment, but you need something when you meet with, when you have the meeting between the manager and the employee, or when you're looking at, let's say, 360-degree feedback, you need something to hold on to, and you need a reference to assess the performance of someone. Are they doing what they are expected to do? That's the main question. Looking at SMART goals, that's a different exercise, because this SMART goal may be valid for a couple of months or a year. This is only to focus someone within the scope of their job description, or maybe to go above and beyond into a new topic, for example, or into a new project. But the job description really is core. And that's what I mean when I talk about HR and organizations doing their homework. It's not sexy. it's sometimes a bit annoying, and it's hard to manage the job descriptions, clearly, or it used to be. Yeah, but it's a core activity and a core responsibility of any HR department to deliver them.
Absolutely. What do you think, Sumit?
I think that's a lot of thoughts and ideas to unpack. And in my part of the world, one of the reasons why job descriptions have existed is more from a compliance standpoint, that as an employer, I want to give you a list of things you should have done in case things go south at some point. So I gave you the job description, you didn't read it, your problem, not mine. But now, if I have to fire you or if I have to put you on a performance improvement plan, that's how I'm going to use that document and use it as a checklist saying, out of 18 things here, you've only done 5. But it's evolving now where, like Philip was saying, that while goals are a different discussion altogether, um, there are companies that are also trying to add some of the, not the entire scorecard, but some of the broad goals or some of the broad outcomes that those responsibilities will help you in getting to. So what are maybe the top 2 or 3 outcomes that the role is expected to deliver? And that's starting to form a part of some of the job description that I'm seeing and what some of my clients are asking for as well.
Absolutely. Well, I have to tell you that it is unfortunate that many companies don't have a job description. And particularly in my experience, particularly in healthcare from a compliancy standpoint, which I appreciate you bringing that up, Sumit, we have to have a job description because we have patients in our hands. We have nurses with hearts in their hands, okay, and doctors and surgeons. And this can be a life or death. And I know this sounds a little overly dramatic, but if an employee does not understand the expectation of their position, and if an employee doesn't understand how to manage, let's say, blood, mistakes can happen. System mistakes can happen, which can kill a patient. Now, I know that may sound a little bit overly dramatic, but I truly believe it's vital. And with my own company that I started several years ago, I was truly working on my job descriptions and working with CompTeam. And by the way, CompTeam did help me with my compensation analytics process. And it was fascinating. My employees, I think, appreciated the fact they knew what was expected of them at work. Also, they appreciated knowing what their compensation was and also how their compensation aligned with other positions. So from a compensation standpoint, Philip, or team, why do you think it's very important from a compensation standpoint that employers really do some analytics here and do it right?
Well, there are 2 things and 2 concepts. One concept is equal pay for equal work.
Mm-hmm.
So the job description helps to determine whether someone is delivering equal work. And then you would need a different method or a different process or a different tool set to measure the performance of the incumbent. But generally, if they're doing the same job, they should be compensated comparably or fairly. So
Right.
that's one approach to this. And the other one is equal pay for work of equal value.
Right.
It might sound a bit European, yeah, but it's actually arriving in the United States too, again. And then you also need to look at the job description and at the content and the responsibilities, the level of problem solving and communication skills required to assess whether work is of equal value. And this is becoming a huge concept all over Europe because the European Union is asking organizations with at least 100 employees to do just that. And that means applying an analytical method or point factor based method of job evaluation to rank the jobs or to weight the jobs with this method. And then to come up with some kind of pay band or pay scale so that the different incumbents in different roles would be paid comparably. So those two things, they exist, and you need job descriptions to deliver this. And the same is true when you're doing a benchmarking exercise, so a classic job pricing exercise. Our comp friends, they need to understand what's the job all about. And they need to be able to somehow assess whether it's a P1, P2, P3, or S1, S2, S3. Yeah, so, and this is not about, listening to the organization, but it needs to be written down so that the bias in the matching against the survey is minimized. And that's only possible through a job description.
Well, I have to say this as a huge advocate. And I think you're right. I think the United States, as well as globally, I think employees expect companies to be doing this type of analysis. And I think employees, I think our youth, and I'm not saying anything about older employees, I'm just saying that with colleges today, our employees are learning about compensation practices. Our employees are learning about what companies should be doing to assure that I get paid equal value for equal work. And it doesn't mean anything about the diversity of, well, it does mean a lot about diversity. But I have to just say, I also was disgruntled when I had male colleagues that made 3 times more than I did for the same job. Today, I feel that that is getting improved. I actually spend a lot of time with employees. Employees are very well aware of the pay levels, as you say, P1s, P2s, P3s, whatever you said that is. And I don't think that some executives give our employees credit that they know a lot about pay equity. And actually, Sumit, I'd love your opinion about diversity and equal pay. And what's your thought on that? Because I know that's a big passion of yours.
That's a tough question to answer because obviously there's a huge pay gap in my part of the world, and it's growing wider because when you, as a recruiter, when you give somebody a job description and you ask them to apply to your organization, as a recruiter, you tend to ask for what was your last drawn salary. So what are you currently getting paid? And of course, the data and every possible piece of research says that women tend to negotiate less in such situations, and they don't really negotiate salary as much as men do, and therefore the pay gap widens because in all likelihood in your current role as a woman you can expect to be paid lesser than a man because of the pay gap. And now because they're asking for your salary and then applying a percentage premium on that while hiring you for the next job, the gap grows wider. But the points you were mentioning, they made me curious about one thing that I'd like to ask Philip. We are talking about the age of generative AI. We're talking about the importance of having a job description and giving it to employees and the use for employers. So how is Gradar evolving to incorporate maybe some of these elements, and what are how does Gradar make life easier? Of course, I've been fortunate enough to have test driven some of the features, but I'm sure I'm only skimming the tip of the iceberg, so to say.
Yeah. I mean, can I show you something with the screen share? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool. All right. So this is, just a moment, this is the application. So this is a job called Chief Travel Blogger. And it's in the marketing job family and an organizational unit called Discovery and Planning within the tourism division. Then there's the grading result. So we know that this job requires something like an undergraduate degree, more than 10 years of experience, that problem solving happens on a certain level, and so on and so on. So the system now takes all of the information, the grading factors, the title, the job family, and will then generate a job description. And there are different sections. So, well, there's still the master data, and then there's the something like the general purpose of the job. And from this little icon, you can tell it was generated by the AI. So here it says the overall purpose of this job is to create engaging and informative travel content through blog posts and social media platforms in order to promote the company's travel services and increase brand awareness. I did not write this. The AI did. And it took the AI a couple of seconds to do that. So I remember when I was a junior consultant at one of the big firms, we charged like 400, 500 euros or dollars per job description, and were able to maybe generate 5 or 6 a day by Googling stuff on the internet and then doing some copy pasting. Now it becomes very precise and very quick. You analyze the job, you evaluate the job, you hand it over to the API, and then the system will give you not only the general purpose, but also the responsibilities, like create high quality written and visual content, including photographs and videos, or stay up to date with travel industry trends, etc. So all of this is spot on. And there's also then, I mean, some of the stuff is then directly from Gradar, as this little icon tells. And then we have the technical skills, such as knowledge of search engine optimization techniques to optimize blog content for search engines. And there are communication requirements also available. So we've got the general purpose. We've got, and this is the short version now, yeah, so we've got 8 core responsibilities. We've got the technical skills, and you can obviously always edit this. And I mean, Sumit, you've done this with a client of ours recently. So, but within seconds and at very, very little costs, you get content that you can start and to customize afterwards. And then obviously there's the combination with competency matches. So these are not the technical, but the social skills, and they are behavior-based. And take the job description, take the social skills, and you've got the foundation for your performance management process. And these are from TMA. And I mean, you represent TMA too as a CompTeam. So it's a pretty cool combination, really, of soft skills, technical skills, core responsibilities. So everything you need is in the system, generated automatically.
That's amazing, because I've had a lot of experience with job descriptions, and you're right, they can take hours and hours to produce just one, and you're searching for the right words and the right adjectives and the technical terminology that you're not necessarily familiar with. So this is phenomenal.
Yeah. And the fun thing is, so imagine you have someone from Spain using the system, or someone from the Netherlands. They can say they want to see it in their own language. Then the content will automatically either be generated in that language or translated through another AI. And the fun thing about AI-powered translations is the quality is often better than what you could get from a semi-professional translator. And that's really cool. We had to learn the hard way. We've worked with so many translators in the past, and I mean, so I speak German, obviously. I speak English. I speak some Spanish and some French. And even I could tell that some of the translations weren't any good. And now, coming through the AI, they are much, much better. And it doesn't cost you anything. It's a couple of cents to get the translation in place.
The other interesting thing I found, Philip, was like you mentioned, the earlier way, which would be to Google and basically create a Frankenstein of a job description by picking up bits and pieces from here and there. So I was just toying around with Gradar and seeing how the generated job description changes if I changed the, I mean, if I change my responses to the evaluation questions, and what was interesting was chief travel blogger at 15 versus at 19, the responsibilities changed a lot, which is not what would happen if we were simply Googling, right? So I thought that was a massive value addition.
So what we're going to do soon is, I mean, there are a couple of features to enhance the entire job description piece. But one of them is that we want to be able to explicitly tell the AI to consider the career path. So when we send the junior analyst up to the senior manager, so those 5 jobs into the AI, to tell it, hey, make it a stepped approach with the least responsibilities on the junior level and the highest responsibilities on the senior level. But it requires some research. And I mean, the results are already pretty good, but they're going to be even better once we have something like this in place.
I mean, I can
Well, I have
imagine.
to go ahead, Smith.
So I used it 2 weeks ago, and what you showed me, it already looks a lot more evolved than that. So the pace at which it's improving is absolutely astonishing. Yeah.
Well, it is astonishing, and I have to throw in, since this is the people strategy forum, and so we have more of a people side of this topic. And I have to say, when employers are really looking at retention and recruitment and job performance, this is so critical to be able to have a good quality job description. And guess what? Our employees are using AI too. It is very frustrating, right? It is very frustrating to be in a position, and I'm pretty passionate about this, as you can see. It is very frustrating to be in a position and my job description is not correct. And it's very frustrating to be in a job where I'm not being paid appropriately. And so if we want to improve our talent management strategies, I think this is a very integral part of a talent management process, from the recruitment process, onboarding process, as well as, the job performance aspect, career mobility of transferring our employees back and forth, as well as offboarding our employees. I think all of these things are very important. And I know we all work with TMA. Did you notice that I'm using the language from TMA? But it is all integrated. This is truly part of our talent management strategy. So, Philip, what is your thought about how this connects with talent management strategy? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, so I think we need to talk about work motivation, and I think that's a big piece. So people tend to be motivated in their work if they can work with a certain degree of autonomy. So that's an important thing. If they perceive the work they do as meaningful, and especially for this one, the job description helps to translate what is expected of someone and to give them room to act. And it's also about fairness. So in compensation, we talk about distributional fairness or distributional justice or procedural justice. Because if you can guarantee this, anyone doing the same job is being paid the same, then this will also have an effect on satisfaction and at the end of the day on work motivation. And for all of these aspects, so perceived justice, autonomy, probably even psychological safety, a job description helps, because you're not acting in any kind of vacuum and you don't really know what is expected of you, but there's something to hold on to. And, starting with job evaluation as a junior consultant, this was also great because I had something to hold on to. But it's the same with any employee, I would say. They need something so they know what is expected from them.
I 100% agree. And, one of the things that we advocate here at CompTeam is having frequent one-on-ones with your employees and having frequent touch bases. Because some of the leaders that I worked with, often their span of control was so large. I mean, I had leaders with well over 50, maybe 100 employees. And it was very difficult for a leader who was expected not only to attend all the management meetings they had to go to every week, but also hit the floor, so to speak, and then create all these one-on-ones. And so I often suggested that we empower our employees to own their own job description, bring their job description to the one-on-one, also answer some questions prior to the one-on-one with the leader, and also talk about these topics such as fairness, equality. Do you agree that your job is in alignment with the organization? How is your job working with other teams? Do you have barriers to your success? So those one-on-ones are very critical, and I love what you said, Philip, having something at the table with those conversations is important, because I have to tell you, most of our employees back in the day when we had paper, most of our employees take their job description and their employee handbook and they throw it in the junk drawer. That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Sometimes I would have leaders say to me, well, what am I supposed to talk about with my employee? Well, one, build a relationship with your employee,
Yeah.
not on, appropriately, but two, let's look at the job description. Let's talk about compensation. Let's be honest. Let's be transparent and authentic. And
Yeah, it's the
what's your
basis
thought?
for recognition and feedback, and at the
Yeah.
same time for goal setting. And when I look at this, it will have an effect on the performance of the employee, on their job satisfaction, and it will also have a negative effect, or actually positive effect, on turnover, because turnover will go down if people are satisfied. It's not all about compensation.
True.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I've been talking to some youth recently, and I'm telling you, I've talked to some youth, and I would say, okay, working age, fresh out of college, very talented, very smart, literally walk into an orientation and literally look at the person and say, wait a minute, you lied to me in the interview about how my pay is going to work here. I didn't realize that I have to wait 6 months for this pay increase. And also, I didn't know that I had to be here at 3:30 in the morning and I had to drive a delivery truck, and all the expectations of what you told me in my interview weren't true. So guess what? This particular person I'm talking about stood up and walked out of the orientation, and he was 20 years old. And I'm not kidding. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
And so if HR and comp and the people strategy team can pull together these practices and do it quickly and efficiently, I think that is golden. And speaking of golden, Submit, what do you think? I like your shirt.
That's funny. In fact, yes. So again, I'll bring in a little bit of the India perspective here, where we've got the largest population of people in the world. We've got a relatively high unemployment rate. But in the past, it's been a case where people have been more conservative, saying too much competition. I've got a job with great difficulty. Let me hang on to it. Now people are simply abandoning jobs. So if I don't like it, I don't turn up tomorrow. No questions asked. So nobody's got the time to try
That's
and
called ghosting, right?
fix
It's
a
called
broken
ghosting.
workplace.
Mhm.
Absolutely, yeah. And not just India, in fact, in various other parts of the world as well. I think the incidences of people simply quitting, or not even quiet quitting, but loudly quitting in the first 15 to 30 days, it's increasing a lot.
I think, if you really boil it down, and I think, Philip, you touched upon this as well, people do want to be paid fairly for, the work they're doing. But beyond that, they want to know what they do matters and how it fits into the organization. And are they going to be recognized for their contributions? And is there a growth path for them? So, the job description, though in the past it's always been kind of laborious, and you're really making that very easy now to produce. That's the cornerstone for all of those activities in HR. If you don't get that right, you can't do any of the other things. You can't do performance management. You can't do career architecture. You can't do, uh, 10 million other things in HR, learning and development. It all starts with having a job description that's accurate and is also flexible enough, as duties change to reflect that.
Yeah. So don't fall for fashions and fads, but do your homework. That's my takeaway from today.
No, but you're making it a lot easier because it's I think many organizations stall because they look at this as this horrible activity that they'll never get through, and they don't know where to begin, and they don't have the employees in place to write job descriptions. So what you're providing is a very easy way to at least have a very strong start that they can then customize.
Yeah, and I think it's time to think in connected ways. So not to have the job description as a PDF or docx or whatever, but have it somewhere. Maybe even give it to the employees through your HRIS.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a bit hard to sign it then, but you can actually keep it updated, and then it becomes part of the job architecture. Right. And you have the direct connection towards the benchmark information, towards the pay bands, towards the gender pay gap analysis. It all comes together now. And that's what gradar stands for.
That's fantastic. Well, I have to tell you that employees expect that. And I would say also leaders need things at their hands, like an app. I don't know if you offer an app or any technology like that. But I think that an employee that is actually, can look at their job description through technology, I think, and very easily, not just, looking up the HR department.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really vital. And oftentimes I think that managers and employees are intimidated by this process because one is, like you said, you have to do your homework. You have to really analyze this. And now we have a fantastic tool called artificial intelligence to help us do this quickly and efficiently. And perhaps with some tweaking, obviously, because we know that, at least in my humble view, AI is really pulled from many internet sources, is my ignorant view, correct? So the HR leader or the compensation analyst or consultant has to do their homework, but it's going to definitely give them a jump start, right? Yeah. I mean, it's going to give them that starting platform that's going to be more comprehensive. And I also love the fact that Gradar integrates other aspects such as competencies. Most employees don't even know what the word, no offense, employees. Most employees don't even talk about the word competencies. And that's fascinating to me because I need to know what my competencies are. I need to know what my talents, my drives, my competencies, and my skill sets are. And I also need to know how that applies to the job that I do. So if I'm going to complain about my pay, I'd like to see my job description. And so, I think this is great. So how quickly does it take your team? Let's say, I love the blogger. I don't think we had that job, a decade ago. All right. How quickly would it take? Let's say I'm an HR leader and I need to revamp my compensation practices. How quickly would that occur with Gradar, do you think?
Well, I think quickly. So the biggest challenge is probably to differentiate between the person and the job.
Right.
So what we would always ask to collect is, hey, give us a list of the employees, please, and their position titles. And then we would try to consolidate those position titles into actual job titles together with HR. And then once we have the job title, it becomes quite clear what the what the requirements are. And then entering this in the system, going through the job grading exercise, and then it's about 30 to 45 seconds until you get the job description. And actually the competencies are going to be there right away. So it doesn't take a lot of time. And I mean, we haven't handled compensation then, because compensation, strategy and philosophy and picking the right benchmark vendor, preparing all of the employees' salary data, that takes a bit more. But just handing the jobs, evaluating them, and getting the description, that's a matter of, I mean, that's a quick win, quick fix.
Okay, well, I know that was a complex question. I just worked with my compensation department and the 4,000 job descriptions, and literally it would take years. I'm talking decade to do a compensation transformation. So anyway, I know we're approaching the top of the hour. So if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about our sponsor real quick. And I'm happy to say all of us here have used it. But before I say that, and I'd like Sumit to have a couple words about this. Sumit and Sam co-wrote this fantastic book, A Framework of Creating Work People Love, the Workforce Experience. Sumit, could you describe this book for me, please?
In a nutshell, Shar, I think it kind of captures what we've been discussing today, the coming together of technology and the human experience. And I think that's what really excites pretty much all of us on this call, and the larger team as well, where the idea is that as humans, we need to enjoy the experience of being human. So it's great to have technology at our fingertips, great innovation by folks like Philipp, who are working to make our lives easier and better with the technology they give us. So it's been a great project, and I'd love to talk more about this. But I think what I'll cap off by saying is, I think tools like Gradar are really unlocking the workforce experience, and they're genuinely creating work that people love and helping us to focus on the right things.
Fantastic. Well, you know what? I think we'll have a people strategy forum about this book. Also, I want to say I absolutely love TMA. I have to say, as a people strategist, this is one fantastic tool. When I owned my own company a couple years ago, we had about 23 employees, and also we had several contractors. I utilized this TMA method. I utilized it from every aspect, from the recruiting, onboarding, talent management, learning and development, and even offboarding. And then also I used the TMA to identify the talents, the skills, the competencies and abilities of my staff. And we actually promoted people and transferred people because of what we learned through the TMA process and the discussions with the TMA. And Philip, I understand that you just met with the CEO of the TMA this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was sitting at a cafe in Portugal, enjoying actually not the sun, it was raining. So there was a wrong assumption that the sun always shines in Portugal. It doesn't. There's a big storm front coming from the Atlantic to hit Europe later this week. So we are actually, we have had the competencies in the system since 2018. And we have dozens of clients that would use the competencies in their own processes. But we figured now is time to, program a button. And then in the future, when you click on that button, the job profile from Gradar, together with the competencies, will be transferred directly into the TMA solution, so that you can start using it to assess your employees or to give them orientation with the click of a button.
Wow. Well, Philip, I'm really excited. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. I do want to mention that also working with Andre. Andre was so kind to actually do one-on-ones with several of my top leaders himself. Pretty impressive, right? And my employees gave me excellent feedback about that because they felt valued, and particularly talking to someone like Andre. But what I love is that the two of you are partnering as CEOs of TMA and the Gradar system. And what I love is that we now are making it easier and accessible. One other little sales point about the TMA is that this is an app on your phone. And hopefully I'm not misspeaking here. I know it's still on my phone, but the TMA is there, and I know that they offer free tools too. So we're talking interview questions, competencies, we're talking even comparisons of other job descriptions for other companies. And I utilize this tool, and my employees gave me positive feedback, particularly my leaders. It made their jobs easier, and it was at their fingertips. And when I was a talent management strategist, I was always asked how to make talent management strategy quicker, more efficient, accurate, and also people-centric. So this is a great solution. So as we're wrapping up today, Philipp, how would an executive or your clients reach you? Do you have a website, email? Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's another visual. Go ahead, Philipp. How do people reach you?
Well, there's the gradar.com website, and there's the option to either chat with us or to sign up for a free trial. And this is definitely something that is very unique in the marketplace. Or there's the option to book a demo. And the demo will not be with a salesperson, but will be with someone who can guide you from crib to cradle. So from the first contact to implementation of gradar and TMA and anything job architecture related. So I don't believe in the classic sales approach. I just want people on the team who actually know what they're talking about.
You know what? I love it. And the fact that you're wearing a sweatshirt today and that you're a CEO, I love it. I think that's fantastic. Our employees want us to be real and tired of the HR blah, blah, blah and the corporate talk. Employees honestly are tired of that. And leaders are also tired of it. And so the fact that you actually have a one-on-one and offer a free demo and really work with employers to be the solution around job descriptions and competencies, and also the utilization of new technologies like artificial intelligence and the integration with HRIS systems is fantastic. So you're saying if somebody goes on your website, gradar.com, and thank you, as you notice, it's in the chat. Yeah, that's nice. In science we trust. Love it. So anyway, we have fun with this. But yeah, if you want to do a meet and greet with you, Philipp, that's fantastic. And we will highly encourage all of our participants and those that are on recordings. The CompTeam People Strategy Forums are on all aspects of social media these days. We're talking LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and everything. So we would love for our clients or potential clients to go out on compteam.net. As you can see, there's an email here. It says support@compteam.net. I'm sure Sam and team like Howard and Submit and maybe me, if you want more of a HR people person, that would be me. So email us if you'd like to have a demo either of CompTeam, TMA, as well as Philipp and Gradar. So we're going to wrap up now. And any final thoughts, words, team? Nope. Okay.
Very impressive.
Well,
Thank you, Philipp. Thank you, Philipp, for your time today.
Yeah, most welcome. Thank you.
Yes, and it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much. And everybody stay warm wherever you are in the world. unless you're in India, it was really warm.
Just going to say that, yeah. Thanks,
Okay,
Shara.
I had to think of that. All right, well, bye, everyone. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Philipp.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thanks, Howard. Bye, Shara.
Bye, Sumit.